What's up, Taiwan? I'm Eric Gao, and thanks for joining us for the news this Friday afternoon. Taiwan's highest court is set to rule on whether controversial political reforms put forward by the opposition-controlled legislature are constitutional. Rick Lauer has been following these reforms, and he's at the Constitutional Court ahead of the ruling. Rick, what can we expect from them today?
Well, it's a big day for Taiwan's politics. The nation's top court set to make that judgment in less than an hour. It's ruling, of course, on a set of reforms that would pretty much change the way the government works here. It would allow the legislature to call the president into the chamber for questioning and give it powers to investigate lawmakers, government officials, businesses, and everyday citizens. Now, the two main opposition parties that control that legislature, they say these reforms are about rebalancing power, about giving oversight over the president's office. Opponents say that these reforms go too far and could cripple the work of the government. Now, this has been a really contentious issue here in Taiwan over the last few months. We've seen literal brawls inside the legislative chamber, and we've seen tens of thousands of people going out onto the streets in protest. In the end, Taiwan's President Lai Ching-te, he sent the issue to the nation's top court to decide. Now, earlier we spoke to Julian Koo of Hofstra University. He's a constitutional expert, and he told us what to expect from today's ruling.
Yeah, I mean, I think that would be ideal from a constitutional jurisprudence perspective, because a lot of these are things that should be resolved by the legislature and the executive yuan working together. It's not really the role of the Constitutional Court to just tell them what to do. It can try to guide them and give them guidance on what they need to think about, what they need to focus on. But the Taiwan Constitutional Court does have a tradition, unlike in the United States, of just sending things back to the legislature and asking them to try again, which I think is probably a good thing in this circumstance. So that's my guess. And my ideal result here is to kick it back to the legislature.
Well, this big political clash between the country's major parties stems from the country's biggest political issue. That is how to deal with China. The country's ruling Democratic Progressive Party, or the DPP, which won a historic third term in office, in the presidential office, they want to keep China at bay. They prefer a more distant relationship with Beijing, whilst the main opposition parties, they think that a closer relationship with China is the key to keeping peace across the strait. And this deep political divide has left the legislature pretty much immobilized. And in the end, it's the top court here that will have to arbitrate on this big divisive issue.
Thanks for that update, Rick. That was Rick Lauer reporting from outside the Constitutional Court, and we will be watching closely to see what the court says. Military units on Taiwan's Penghu Islands are wrapping up several days of live fire exercises. And for the first time, these drills included target practice in the middle of the night. Jaime Okan was there.
A show of force on Taiwan's Penghu Islands. Taiwan's military here is conducting live fire exercises using recently upgraded tanks and artillery to practice defending the coastline against enemy ships and drones. This exercise is usually carried out early in the morning, but for the first time, the military is switching it up, conducting this drill closer to midnight and making it harder to hit targets.
针对战车的射手方面，会有夜间的一些观瞄装置实施射击。夜间操演主要是让官兵弟兄熟稔夜视器材的操作，并适应夜间的作战环境。
Recently, military activity in the Taiwan Strait has surged, with Beijing conducting some of its largest military exercises around Taiwan, simulating a blockade of the country. And just a few kilometers away, Taiwan's military has also been busy. For the past few days, the skies and seas around Penghu have been lit up with hundreds of rounds of tank and artillery fire. Taiwan says that this drill is a demonstration of its military capabilities, demonstrating just how difficult it is to attack the country. Sitting in the middle of the Taiwan Strait, Taiwan's Penghu Islands are critical for the country's defense against China, which is threatened to bring Taiwan under its control by force. Analysts say these drills and the islands themselves play a big role in testing how quickly Taiwan's military can mobilize and respond to any threat.
The Penghu Islands, I think, will provide a couple different benefits to Taiwan. One is forward ISR, intelligence, surveillance, reconnaissance. The more time that the Taiwanese military forces have to see what the Chinese forces are doing, the easier it is for them to respond.
Taiwan says for the rest of October, all branches of the military will be conducting exercises. But for the soldiers on the islands closer to China, the pressure of these drills might just feel a bit more real, as it could someday be on the front line of a conflict. Fu Huahong and Jaime Okan in Penghu for TaiwanPlus.
A Wall Street Journal report says Russian President Vladimir Putin has asked U.S. billionaire Elon Musk not to activate his Starlink satellite network over Taiwan. Putin and Musk have reportedly been in close contact for the past 2 years. The Journal report says the request was made as a favor to Chinese President Xi Jinping. Musk is the world's richest man, and he has emerged as a staunch supporter of U.S. Republican presidential candidate Donald Trump. His company's contracts with the U.S. government are worth billions of dollars. President Lai Ching-te has attended a ceremony honoring veterans of one of the key battles in Taiwan's history, and one of the last times that Chinese communist troops attempted to invade the country's territory. Chris Gorn reports.
President Lai Ching-te has come here to this military cemetery on Taiwan's outlying Kinmen Islands to commemorate the anniversary of the Battle of Gumingtou, fought here 75 years ago, and to honor those who fought and died there.
在这里，我也要代表国家，向各位参战前辈、眷属以及前金门自卫队参战代表，表达最诚挚的感谢。
The battle took place on the Kinmen Islands, just 10 kilometers from the Chinese mainland, as forces of the Republic of China, or ROC, were fleeing from China to the island of Taiwan after losing the Chinese Civil War. In the early hours of October 25, 1949, forces of the Communist People's Liberation Army were discovered as they attempted to land an invading force on Kinmen, leading to a disastrous defeat for Communist forces after 2 days of fighting. The battle is an important one for both sides and plays a central role in the story of the ROC on Taiwan's founding, as it ensured the Communist forces would not launch an effective attack on Taiwan. Lai today saying the battle paved the way for today's democratic Taiwan.
武林头战役让我们明白，民主自由并非理所当然，而是需要世世代代的人共同努力守护。我们 珍惜民主自由的生活方式，不能，也不会让任何外部势力改变台澎金马的未来。
To this day, Kinmen remains on the front line between Taiwan and China, often a place of rare cross-strait friendship, but also increasing tensions, with Chinese ships sailing ever closer to the islands. President Lai's trip today, a tribute to those who fought to protect Taiwan, and a reminder of the threat still posed by Taiwan's giant neighbor. John Su and Chris Gorin for TaiwanPlus.
The European Parliament has backed Taiwan's international participation and condemned China's recent intimidation around the country. It passed a resolution calling for Taiwan to take part in international bodies, which often exclude the country due to Chinese pressure. The text says that China's justification for Taiwan's exclusion, UN Resolution 2758, does not apply, as it doesn't mention Taiwan at all. The parliament also condemned China's intimidation of Taiwan through military drills. Tropical storm Trami has brought destruction and caused several injuries across Taiwan. Rain and strong winds have uprooted trees and damaged properties, leaving several people hurt. A heavy rain advisory has been issued in multiple parts of the country's north and east. Trami made landfall in the northern Philippines, where it has left at least 26 people dead. People power has paid off for workers at a factory in Taoyuan. Fed up with years of having their rights trampled on, the workers from Taiwan, Vietnam, and Thailand joined forces to demand the money they're owed, and their employer listened. John Van Trieste explains why this case is so unusual.
It's a labor protest in 3 languages. The multinational workforce at the Datong Dyeing and Finishing Company in Taoyuan says its employer has broken the law for decades. And with the textile company preparing to close, this is their last shot at some kind of restitution. Senior Taiwanese workers say the company stopped paying into their retirement funds in 2005. From that year, anyone who'd been on for at least 25 years was forced into half-year contracts that cut their pay by 30% and took away all but a week of annual leave.
我在公司做了47年，在那边 边做的时候，做到94年的时候，旧制换新制，他就叫我们旧制结清，我们只好选择新制。有人选择旧制，就被他遣散。
The legality of this practice is still in question. But it wasn't just local workers. The factory also began hiring migrant workers from Vietnam and Thailand. Together with their Taiwanese counterparts, they faced unpaid overtime and mandatory unpaid leave. For years, none of the workers said anything. Even those who may have known their rights were being violated kept their heads down to avoid losing their jobs. But rumors the factory was closing down changed everything overnight. The migrant workers were especially panicked, as they would now have to repay hefty fees to the middlemen who got them their positions.
他们担心有想换雇主也找不到工作啊！如果找得到工作就亏钱多少？8万、9万、10万都太多了，太多的亏钱。
Then in July, something unusual happened. Workers from Taiwan, Vietnam, and Thailand who might otherwise have had conflicting interests banded together and formed a union.
加班的时数一旦是被外籍移工拿去之后，那本来的加班时数就下降。那大家知道，在船厂里面，大家薪水都偏低，就是要靠加班才能维持生计。那如果我这边的加班时数少，是不是我等同我的薪水也跟着下降了？那所以他们之间就会有一些，要说竞合嘛，不如说牢牢相争啦。
And it wasn't just this barrier the workers overcame. Many of the workers don't speak each other's languages. But everyone understood that once the factory closed, it would be too late to claim money they felt they were owed. After several months of negotiation, they got big concessions from the company. Payment for overtime owed and unused annual leave, and severance of up to 2 months with an additional lump sum compensation. Migrant workers also got an offer of either a plane ticket home or money for lodging as they search for a new job. Labor organizers say this shows the importance of solidarity between Taiwanese and overseas workers.
移工的问题就是劳工的问题，本劳的问题跟移工的问题往往是相通的。尤其在移工越来越多的情况底下，如果没有收移工担任会员的话，其实甚至会有会员没有办法过半这样的恐惧存在。所以我们呼吁大家要收移工来担任会员。
They see a model here for successfully breaking through national and linguistic barriers and holding companies that break the law to account, furthering the welfare of everyone involved. Patrick Chen and John Van Trieste for TaiwanPlus.
Taiwan's so-called trash mountains could disappear by late 2026. The government says it will spend over $37 million to get rid of them. Taiwan has 28 mostly publicly owned waste incinerators, but since 2017, those have been taken offline on a rotating basis for maintenance and upgrades. That's left 840,000 tons of trash piled up nationwide. Environment Minister Penghu has asked Taipei to use its extra capacity to help, taking in trash from overwhelmed parts of the country to speed up the cleanup process. Police have taken down what they're calling Taiwan's largest ticket scalping group. It allegedly resold tickets to popular singer Chou's upcoming concert at prices approaching $10,000.
发现呢是有不法的集团，先运用大量的假账号的资料，并且运用扫票程式，在售票网站上进行扫票。 那并且哄抬价格来兜售。那该集团呢，在网络上呢是号称是全国最大的代购的一个票券的管道。
The group falsely advertised pre-sale guarantees to hundreds of fans through a commonly used chat app. 2 suspects have been charged with fraud and forgery. Authorities are investigating 11 other price gouging cases. Thanks for tuning in for What's Up Taiwan. Don't forget to visit our website and follow us on social media. And before we go, check out this 3-year-old German boy making a splash in the art world with paintings that have already sold for thousands of euros each. I'm Eric Gao. Have a great weekend.